We are worshipers. All right, why else is worship so important? Worship is important not only because we are worshipers, but because we will become like what we worship. In your outline, I asked a question, and you can kind of fill it in if you want to. You can answer it in your mind. Hopefully you take a little thought into it. What do you worship? What's important to you? Where's your priorities at today? And the thing about that, why we have to ask ourselves those questions is because of this. We will become like what we worship. What are some things? I'm not saying you do this. You don't have to say, okay, Jay, I'll confess my sin today in front of everybody. I worship. Let's just make it very general. Give me an example of something that we see people today worship. Money. Okay, what happens? If money becomes the most important thing to us, how does that change who we are? How do we become like what we worship?
Because you're consumed with only thinking of that.
We're consumed.
How to get more.
How to get more.
Any means necessary.
Huh?
Any means necessary.
Any means necessary. I'll do whatever it takes.
That's like drugs.
Okay, there's people that worship drugs. It becomes what they consume. They'll do anything they want, right? And that changes it. Okay, take drugs. You become an addict. That's what we call it, right? It consumes us. It changes who we are. I mean, I've seen interviews. I don't know many personally, but I've seen interviews, and you hear about how somebody's sneaking into somebody's house to steal all their stuff, to take it to a pawn shop so they can get $20 to go get a fix. It consumes them, and and after, you really see it when somebody's like clean and sober, they'll go back, I don't know why I did those things. How stupid was I? That kind of, they can't even comprehend that they went to that extent. But it's because we become like what we worship. If we get consumed with money, maybe you're picking up shifts. Well, I gotta have the money to pay for the house, to pay for the car, to pay for the horse. She got a horse yesterday. There's got to be balance. Houses aren't bad, cars ain't bad, horses, I haven't been around them enough to know if they're bad. If they start biting me, kicking me, hitting me, then horses are bad. We just can't be consumed by all these other things in our life.
That's all you think
I'm preaching at you.
about. I know.
I'm teasing. What else? Money, drugs, horses. What else? What do we worship? Power? Oh, I got to be in charge. I get to tell somebody what they have to do. Can't wait to be the manager of anything.
Sleep.
Sleep. What about some good things that might get in the way? What about our families? Can my family be the thing that I worship? That I'm willing to sacrifice anything and everything for? And I know it doesn't really sound that bad, does it? Not really. I mean, if you just hear it quickly and you think, oh, well, Jay, that makes Jay a good husband, or it makes him a good father, or, oh man, he really cares about his family. But if I'm willing to sacrifice everything, then I'm running the risk of letting these things that I'm willing to sacrifice everything for become more important than my God.
That's what I think the money part, family makes you, when you're not obsessed, but when you let family pick, I gotta have more money to give my family this, all these things they don't, really have to need.
Who are you talking about? You're talking about my family?
No. I'm talking about, with the hey,
You're talking about my
I'm
family.
gonna work extra shifts so I can buy that new car for my kid when they're 16.
you can just get.
And I think that's one of the ways it's a bad to obsess too much, or not loving them too much, or.
I think the biggest problem is when we have good intentions that go too far. There's nothing wrong with loving our families, providing, protecting. I mean, these, everybody here can say drugs are bad. Greed is bad. But love of our family, man, Jay, you can't preach against that when it comes to work. It's when we take it too far and let it manipulate, obsess us, change us. Then it becomes, so many of us have to work. I see how my kids react when April's coming off 2 or 3 shifts where she's had to work in a row and she gets to be home that night. I see how my kids react. There is no way I'm looking at, honey, why don't you just try to pick up a couple extra shifts per day, just to do it, just so we can have more stuff. I don't want to change. I don't want to trade what's important for things that may only appear to be important. And God does not want to change us to trade our worship for Him, for anything. Because when God's priority remains in place in our lives, His love and blessing just trickles down on everything else, and everything else is okay. We start learning words that the Apostle Paul used that doesn't fit well with today's society. We learn what content means. The Apostle Paul said, I'll find myself to be content in whatever state I'm in, because God had the right priority. Let's look at the passage of Scripture. Psalms 115:4. But their idols are silver and gold made by the hands of men. Those who make them will be like them. And so will all who trust in them. Whatever we make our idols to be, we become what that is. If it's money, we become greedy. If it's drugs, we become addict. Worship is so important because we are worshipers and we'll be like what we worship. See, there's 3 basic, when we take a look at worship, there's 3 basic things that's going on. There's 3 important players in worship that I want to share with you today. It's the audience. These are the witnesses in the world. They see the worship. Now, I mean, you can apply this to a bunch of different things, but I mean, to me, the audience are those who see our lives. They know what our priorities are. They know. It can be what I talk about all the time. It can be what I do with my life. It can be where I go and what's going on. They see my life. They see our worship. They see the ministries that we're involved in. The audience sees. The audience knows. Then we have the performer. That's us. And worship. And I know that's such a horrible thing when we talk about worship, because we try so hard to make sure what worship might be in a church setting is not a performance, because it has such that negative connotation that it's all for show. But there is a performance that is our life. Acts, if you will, like in a play. Stage 1 of my life, here I am, what's going on? I am the performer. And how all that is affecting us. And then there's the director, and that is God. God is the one that is directing my life and my worship. And there's things that happens that I don't understand. I've